You just got back from your 3rd deployment. You have some new upgrades to put inside your mech. The 3D printing process has already begun. Sure, you've had to do some questionable things, but look at the results. Hi, I'm Big Mike, and this is the tutorial for Lancer. Lancer is a tabletop RPG where you play a titular Lancer, a mech pilot above normal pilots who's given access to cutting-edge hardware in a galaxy slowly recovering from total anarchy. Or getting worse. Up to you on that one. Lancer features 2 kinds of gameplay, narrative play and mech combat. Both use 1D20 to determine outcomes. Narrative play is simple. You roleplay your actions and decisions and make skill rolls when a challenging circumstance comes up. And this game gives you modifiers to help with that during that period of gameplay. When you create your pilot, you choose a background, which gives sample triggers for you to choose from, 4 in total. Triggers are short phrases that are used to describe actions or general abilities your character has. These are phrases like stay cool or apply fists to faces. Each trigger gives +2 to any roll during narrative play and only during narrative play. As your character improves, you can add +2 to these triggers, or gain additional triggers. By default, you have to roll 10 or better to achieve success, but the DM can modify the challenge of this roll. These rolls are called skill checks. You can't repeat a skill check you failed unless circumstances have changed, or you push it. Pushing it means you take a roll and make it what the game calls risky, which you can only do if the roll didn't already have that status already. In this case, you will succeed if you get a 10 or above, like normally. But there will be some negative consequence to the outcome if you get below a 20 or better. Whenever players gain a bonus to their roll, it's known as accuracy. When they gain negatives to their roll, it's called difficulty. These apply both to narrative play and mech combat. Players also have stats for mech combat when fighting outside their mech. But, barring equipment differences, these are identical between PCs at character creation, as you're all spongy, soft humans against giant robots. Combat is possible in narrative play, but the majority of combat you'll see will be in your mech combat, so why wait? Let's just get right to it. Also, you can check out narrative combat in the book on your own, and there's a free version of the book online on the developer's itch page. Just an FYI. But, it's time for the fun part of Lancer. The mechs. So this part is vastly more complicated than the minutia, but mechs in Lancer are relatively simple. First, your pilot gets 4 skills. Hull, used to break things. Agility, used for feats of dexterity. Systems, any kind of electronic challenges. And engineering, for keeping your mech physically intact. In turn, each skill provides bonuses to the mechs that you build. Your character plugs in your modifications and it gets 3D printed. Yeah, your giant robot is 3D printed. You heard me. In addition, you're given talents, which are much like feats in any other system, which give you additional bonus abilities in combat. You choose 3 of which to start. The last thing you add to your mech is your grit. At character creation, this is 0, but as you improve, this grows and adds to the overall HP, SP, and attack rolls of your mech. So how do you build your mech? With a thing called license levels. There are 5 major distributors of mechs and mech components available to you. As you level throughout the game, you choose a mech you want to buy a level in, and doing so lets you take components from that mech and use them wherever you want, however you want, in any mech you have access to. And there is some weird ass shit that these mechs can do. At character creation, you have what's known as license level 0. This starts you off with all the gear from the first distributor, GMS, the mech they offer, the Everest, and all of the subsequent components that it has as well. There's a lot of good stuff here, so don't overlook it. To advance your character, you just have to complete a mission. That's it. After every mission, your triggers, skills, grit, and license levels go up. In between missions, you have downtime actions. This is where a lot of narrative play happens when you're not in your mech. There's a wide variety of actions to either prepare for the next mission or to just relax, though most options do have a mechanical benefit. And now, combat. Combat is relatively easy. Each turn you can move and choose to either have 1 full action or 2 quick actions. A full action is something that requires the pilot's full attention, like repairs or barrage attacks. Quick actions are things like moving a second time or activating a subsystem. Most weapon attacks take up a quick action unless they are really, really big. So a barrage attack is either a super heavy weapon or you using 2 attacks from different mounts of your mech at the same time. Now, here's where it gets tricky. On your turn, you can overcharge for another quick action, but your mech will generate heat. What's heat? Certain weapons and abilities generate heat in a mech. This is a kind of damage to your mech, but it has its own meter for this called a heat cap. If you reach half of that, you are considered to be in the danger zone, and exceeding your heat cap will cause your mech to overheat, and that causes stress damage. If you max out your stress damage, usually of a total of 4, you get to roll on a fun table that determines what happens. However, some mechs and their abilities require you to be in the danger zone to activate and give you boosts to your attacks. With all attacks, you roll 1d20 for the weapon you want to use on your mech, add your attack bonus, and roll the appropriate dice for damage. Each weapon has different stats and can deal either kinetic, energy, explosive, or burn damage. Each damage type is unique and has its own attributes, so go check out the book if you want to see how they work. Damage to a mech, or a pilot who's unfortunately outside of their mech, is subtracted by the armor. It is immediately dealt to the HP of the pilot or the mech. Now, some mechs can work without their pilot in them. Some just blow up when things go bad. It really depends. Both mechs and players have HP. Players have 6, whereas each mech has its own. If a player hits 0 HP, they roll 1d6 for the outcome. Conditions vary depending on what you roll. You can die. A lot. If a mech hits 0, it takes structure damage. All mechs just have 4 structure damage that they can take. And they roll on a different table to see the outcome. If you take 4 structure damage, well, try not to be in your mech. That being said, if your mech does get destroyed, you can always get a new one 3D printed. As for you, if you die, you don't have to stay dead. We have clones. You just jam your consciousness into a fresh body made from that blood you left in that lab that one time. There's usually a weird quirk that clone has, though. And that's Lancer. It has an incredibly innovative world with many different mech enhancements, and I invite you to check it out. For those of you who don't, you'll just have to watch us play it here on D20 Live.